Tonight, we investigate a mysterious light that haunts the Oklahoma-Missouri border. Sightings go back at least 100 years and even inspired a Disney short. Is this the light of a ghostly specter searching for their lost head, or is the explanation a bit more simple? We drove to the edge of the Ozarks to try and find out ourselves.
So...
Is that it?
Where?
Look, directly ahead. The Ozark Spook Light is typically spotted around the tree line looking west on E50 Road in rural Ottawa County, Oklahoma, about a 20-minute drive southwest from Joplin, Missouri. Descriptions have varied wildly over the years, with some claiming it's the size of a basketball, others saying it was as large as a bathtub, sometimes it's a circle, other times it's diamond-shaped, and people can't seem to agree on whether it's a single point of light or multiple. And I've seen it described as basically every possible color you can think of, although white does seem to be the most common description. One thing that is common among the reports is that the light tends to disappear the closer you try to get to it, although a few older, more colorful stories have claimed that the light approached them, with one person even claiming that the light entered their vehicle and burned their seats. Sightings go back at least 100 years, and the phenomenon became so well known that in 2006, Disney included a short film inspired by the spook light on its DVD release for the movie Cars. In the short, titled Mater and the Ghostlight, Mater is chased by a mysterious light which, spoilers, turns out to actually just be a lantern placed on his tow hook. So then, what is the source of this light? Well, for many who have seen it, there is no doubt in their minds that what they are witnessing is paranormal, and there are many different tales explaining its ghostly origins. For example, some believe the lights to be coming from the lantern of a Civil War soldier who was decapitated by a cannonball and roams the area looking for his lost head. Skeptics are not so convinced, instead believing the phenomenon to simply be the glow of headlights, specifically headlights from nearby Route 66, modern-day Interstate 44. So there is a red cell phone tower that you can kind of see poke up every now and then. That's not it. They had mentioned that there's a point down this road where there's an opening on your right-hand side. Okay. So that's kind of like the area that's known whenever
right.
we see...
It is about a mile. There's a large farm.
I think that's it.
Well,
is it like a large pasture? Kind
it's
of like
off. No, I'm talking about there's a factory farm off in the field. Like, I mean, after it opens up. So...
Is that it?
Where?
Look, directly ahead.
No, that's the tower. That's the...
No, you said a white light.
Right ahead.
Oh, on the bottom?
Like,
that's a headlight.
But...
Keep going.
I think that might be it.
Wait, yeah, okay, hang on. That's like not... It looks a lot closer than...
Is there anything in the literature about changing colors?
Yes.
Let's get out there. Keep going.
Okay, I will. One second. I just want to kind of look at it for a second, you know?
It's kind of like ham.
Because it's just kind of sitting there. If it was a headlight, you would think it would be more... Wouldn't it be kind of like...
It doesn't look like it's moving.
I want a closer look.
Well, that's the thing, is apparently if you get too close, it disappears. See, okay, so, and then there's those cars going.
That's the cars ahead
Those are the cars that were ahead of us, and that light is like...
It's like dim now.
It's like, dim, but it is further out there.
It's dim. I think it's dim in reference to that.
The possibility of the spook light simply being headlights really depends on how old you believe the tale to be. True believers will claim that sightings first occurred in this area as far back as 1838, when they showed up to protect the victims of the Trail of Tears. But there are two other years that are more commonly cited. One is 1896, which is when some people claim that a series of mysterious lights moved across the fields of Hornet, Missouri. And if that did happen, then that would lend some credence to the idea that the spook light is something other than headlights. The problem is that there are no contemporaneous accounts backing up this claim. I even tracked down a book on the history of Newton County, Missouri, published by the area's Historical Society. And while it did have a section on Hornet and a section on the spook light, it never mentioned the strange lights rolling through the small town. Then there is 1881, by far the most commonly cited year by those set on proving the paranormal nature of the spook light. It is in 1881 that many claim the first published report of the light to be released, in a book called The Ozark Spook Light by a man named Foster Young. The problem with this is that even though this is one of the most commonly cited rebuttals to the car headlight believers, no one seems to be able to actually produce a copy of this book or have any information about Foster Young. Many just seem to treat this as some lost relic, but one that proves a 19th century belief in the spook light, and so finding this book became a priority. I had prepared to spend weeks, maybe months, scouring the internet for any leads as to where I might find a copy. And then I found it almost immediately. A copy was located within a special collection called the Michael Wallace Route 66 Archive at the Oklahoma State University Tulsa Campus Library. So I drove to Tulsa. Unfortunately, the rules of the collection said that I couldn't film or take any pictures, but I was able to put my hands on a copy of The Ozark Spook Light by Foster Young, which was published in the 1980s. In the book, Young advocates for cleaning up the area to make it a more attractive tourist attraction, then includes several articles about the light, none of which date back to the 1800s. The earliest definitive mentions that I could find of this specific light actually came from the 1930s. The first was an article from the Neosho Daily News published September 27, 1935, which mentioned that people had been driving from town to see the light. The next year, a more in-depth article titled "The Mystery Light of the Ozarks on the Devil's Promenade" was written by a journalist named A.B. McDonald of the Kansas City Star. McDonald traveled to see the light himself and interviewed several locals, ultimately concluding that what he had witnessed was, in fact, just car headlights. And a quick note about that title, "The Mystery Light of the Ozarks on the Devil's Promenade." When you read about the light, people will call the road where the light is seen the Devil's Promenade. Yet, as I read through various newspapers from the late 1800s and early 1900s, it became obvious to me that the name was actually originally for something completely different, and had somehow been mixed up with the spooklight lore over time. In reality, the Devil's Promenade is the name of a rocky outcropping over the Spring River that was a common day trip destination for people from Joplin in the 1800s, and references to the name can still be found around the town of Quapaw today. I know this may seem like a relatively minor point in the broader story, but I do think that this conflation speaks to how old tales can evolve over time. Over 50 years, the term Devil's Promenade evolved from the name of a specific geologic feature over a river into the spooky nickname for a stretch of road 10 miles away. During our trip to the Spooklight, we found it pretty much immediately, then spent the rest of the evening driving down Spooklight Road trying to see when the light would disappear, then looping back around to start over again. The light would reappear every single time we drove down E50. We also drove down the various other east-west roads, trying to see if any other light anomalies were visible. And there weren't really any other spots in which the light became visible. It really did just happen on that one stretch of Spooklight Road. And look, I am personally of the belief that it really is just headlights coming down I-44, but I do find it just a little odd that there's not a single spot on any of the parallel streets where this becomes visible again. The elevation differences are roughly the same, the tree cover seems to be roughly the same. Really, the only difference is the angle at which cars approach. E50 is right around an area where I-44 starts to curve, and maybe the angle is just right at that exact point for the lights to shine through. One thing I did notice is that at times, the light really did seem to split into multiple points. In these still photos, you can see two distinct lights, almost like the two different headlights of an approaching vehicle. While the current iteration of the Spooklight likely stems from headlights, I would be remiss to not mention some other things that we did come across in our research. Mysterious, unexplained, ghostly lights are not a new phenomenon, and they're not just restricted to the Oklahoma-Missouri border. In fact, various iterations of similar tales exist all over the world, often with real-world explanations, such as swamp gas, lights from distant buildings, atmospheric refraction, and even bioluminescent fungi. But during a search of newspapers, I did come across a few interesting stories that were from Oklahoma and Missouri. On February 11th, 1909, several newspapers across the state of Oklahoma reported that mysterious lights were appearing over train tracks near the town of Blue Jacket, causing the trains to stop nearly every night. So big a problem was this that the townsfolk had apparently begun organizing posses to hunt the phenomenon, which they claimed was caused by the ghosts of 3 children carrying red lights. And there's not just the Blue Jacket lights, which happened about 45 minutes away from the current Spooklight. Ghost lights were also seen in a churchyard in Conway, Missouri in 1897. Just like the Devil's Promenade, it seems likely to me that as the years went by and as locals discovered the strange glow visible from E50 looking west, several of these similar tales of ghostly or unexplained lights likely merged into one to create the legend of the Ozark Spooklight as we understand it today. But even so, that still doesn't completely explain all of the claims from those who have seen the lights. The changing shapes and sizes, the people who say they got close enough to feel the heat. Are they embellishing? Are their memories clouded by stories of spirits desperately searching for their lost heads? Or could there actually be a spirit manifesting on this stretch of forgotten road in a sparsely populated corner of Oklahoma?